Hey, what's up everybody? Robbie from Producer Brain here, and in this video I'm going to show you my remake of Oliver Helden's and Lenno's track called This Groove. So we've got an awesome tutorial here on recreating this future house sound in a modern context in 2019. So let's dive right in, take a listen, and then do a tutorial on how to get this simple yet really catchy and effective groove. Alright, so there is the drop to this song. It is, of course, the classic Oliver Helden style. It's a very minimal drop with really what I, in my recreation, only had one layer of instrumentation, which is that main bass sound you hear. And the rest is just some nice clean drum work. So let's start there. Let's start with this main sound you're hearing. So I guess let's talk about the actual MIDI pattern first and the groove itself in this song called This Groove. I think that's relatively important to cover. So what's happening here is octaves. So you're playing one note and jumping up to the octave of that note. So playing the same note 12 semitones up in a really simple pattern, right? So nothing too crazy is going on here, but it's the rests in the melody or the gaps that really create the suspense in the groove. So you have like, just standard straightforward. And then this gap creates suspense. And this note that's sidechained right here on the 1.34 creates a nice groovy sound. And then, another just rest here, and then that same pattern, and then a little bit of variation at the end. So really the groovy part of this track, if we just zoom way in here, is just having one hit on the first beat and then the 0.14. And what gives it that, real pull is the sidechain. So I'm just using Nicky Romero's kickstart with a mix of 90% on the first setting, free punch setting. And that allows it to bounce and hit that groove and most of all, let the kick do its job. So if we didn't have the sidechain on, like playing this with the kick drum is gonna sound really bad because they're just gonna hit at the same time. So next let's talk about the sound itself. So this is a serum patch that I modified. So I'm gonna try and do what I did over again, and this was a couple days ago, so hopefully I can remember or at least work my way backwards to where I started. So what I'm gonna do is just reset serum, then I'm gonna go back to this pack I have and pull up what I use as my starting point. So this is I'm gonna turn off all the processing as well. And just show what this sounded like initially. So I wanted to get something sort of like warm and analog sounding because I knew that was the harder part for me, and the easier part was to find the more future house sound. And so what I did was ended up changing the second oscillator, the oscillator B. So what I did was just go through these different wavetables and just start listening. So something with a little more sound to it, like a little less sawy. And this is the one I went with. I believe it went down an octave. Yeah, so with and without. And I wanted this one to be louder in comparison to this saw wave. And let me make sure I'm on the right octave with this one as well. Yeah, yeah, I had to come up an octave on the saw wave, and then I turned the level of this one up just to match it and be a little louder. And I'm pretty positive I changed the noise as well. Yeah, it had to be one of these air can ones. Let's just go back and check. I think that sounded like what I did. Yep. So really I was just looking for a starting point and then building off of that to get something closer to that Oliver Helden's like more future house sound without losing some of that warmth that I was getting from this initial patch. So that's just a look at how I sort of sound design from other presets. Of course you can go in, I'm sure I messed with the effects as well, but just there, well, you know, that was close enough to the starting point, so I'm just gonna go ahead and delete that and then look at the external processing I did. So externally on this one, obviously we talked about the sidechain. The next thing I did was warm it up a bit with the Sound Toys Decapitator, my favorite saturator. I just have a bit of drive just on the 1 here with the mix turned almost all the way up on the E setting, and that just gives a bit more character to the sound. Actually does a lot on a really low drive setting. And the thing I knew I was missing next was a little bit of the high end. So my sound was a little bit dull in comparison to the reference. And instead of using like a fancy vintage, you know, warm up EQ, I just went straight to Ableton and just boosted with a broad Q here, just something up in the very high range frequencies. So yeah, that's how I designed that patch, obviously starting from a good point and then going from there. And then the last thing you'll see on this chain is the Endless Smile plugin, which gets automated towards the ends of the drop. So you can see this guy's face light up as we go here. So what this plugin does is just combine like reverb and filter automation to give that like DJ fade out effect. So it's just a very quick way to do all in one knob, you know, get this washout effect. So that's it for the bass sound. Now let's talk about drums. So all of these drums are from my free sample pack, the Producer Brain sample pack. You can grab them all for free in the description. And there's really not too much going on here. So what's really key is making sure your drum samples are really high quality in a drop that is this minimal. So you want to have a really solid foundation with your kick drum. So I'm just using my kick drum 07 and I just boosted the highs a little bit just to match what I was hearing in the reference. Just some nice like classic sounding claps. I have 2 of mine layered. So relatively straightforward, just 2 really strong claps from my pack, and then the cymbals. So just a basic open hi-hat on the offbeats. Again, make sure that that sample is, you know, the right sound you want. For this style of track, it uses a very certain sound in the open hi-hat. Next is the crash sound, another one from my pack. Something relatively straightforward but very clean sounding. And then the interesting thing here is these offbeat closed hi-hats. So the way you get those is, if I zoom way down in here, it's just on the 0.4s and then the 0.2s. So kick here on the 1, open hi-hat halfway in between to the next kick, and then halfway in between the open hi-hat to the next kick, you know, right here is the first closed hi-hat, and then it happens right again in between the next kick and the next open hi-hat halfway is that other closed hi-hat to get that sound. So all together the drums sound like this. And the last thing I have, which I don't believe is my samples, oh, the snare is. So here's the drum fill. I just grabbed a Cymatics tom fill for my tom fill. Let me know if you guys want me to make drum fills. The snare is in the pack. This drum fill is not in the pack, but let me know in the comments if you guys do want me to make some fills. So yeah, that drum fill is the last piece of the puzzle here. And in terms of processing on the drums, I really don't have much going on at all. Just some slight EQing on the claps and the cymbals and the drum fill as well. I didn't even do my normal saturation and glue compression that I usually would, just because I was just using my ears and things were sounding good. So starting with these type of samples is, a good key to get you, stepping in the right direction when you're creating this type of song. So let's play this one more time as we ride out. If you want to learn more about me or my online music production bootcamp, you can do that at producerbrain.com/bootcamp. Let me know in the comments what you want me to do next, and let's give this a listen one more time, and thank you for watching.